Good afternoon. So when we have just seen many discussions about the holistic approach that need to be carried out when we are approaching a cybersecurity problem. So from that particular perspective, we just want to identify how the holistic approach can be implemented in practical sense. So especially when it is coming to AI deployment aspect. So basically, we try to identify that when we are going for an implementation, what kind of a conceptual or the problems that the organizations or the people involved in the particular process may be going to face. And from an architectural perspective, so what kind of a problems you will be going to face, and from a governance perspective. So we try to identify that how you will be able to implement that in a practical as an extension to the best practices that is already in place. So if you look about this particular innovation dilemma of something which we always try to discuss coming to an artificial intelligence solutions, we expect that when it is coming to an artificial intelligence, especially when the dark web or the cyber attack scenarios, we already mentioned about why there is a cyber attack that is often carried out. So whether it is all the cyber attack is going to be something which is harmful for the organizations or something we should, in positive aspect, how we should look into the cyber security aspect. So obviously we can see there are malware as a service or the ransomware as a service, multiple service provisions that is provided, and there are multiple agencies or there are organizations that contribute in terms of making the cyber attacks over a period of time. So fundamentally, we try to identify that there is a great scope in observing or understanding the performance or the way of operations of these particular cyber attack groups, how they are innovative in coming up with their different solutions using artificial intelligence. And when you want to identify that, okay, they are coming with a lot of solutions or innovations in terms of the threat modelings or the using the artificial intelligence, and how you will be able to make a balance. So we are not completely eliminating the scope or the opportunities that you will be going to get by the attacker groups, those who are actually contributing or those who are coming with a different innovative ways of contribution to the improving the cyber security or improving the cyber security infrastructure perspective. Obviously, from a positive perspective, what we can identify that AI is always helping us for the encryption or the threat detection parameter or continuous monitoring aspect. But that is something which we are anticipating. But obviously, we should look from the attacker perspective, what they contribute for this particular cyber security ecosystem. So what is their contribution? So we try to identify that how to bring this particular, whether we should consider their innovations, contributions into this particular domain. So we mentioned about the attacker groups. And if you look about most of this particular proactive or hunting process, major scenario is about the data poisoning systems or the adversarial attacks, that is with reference to artificial intelligence solutions that is offering. So within that particular scenario, when you say about we are going for a data poisoning mechanism, or when you are attacking a particular a driverless car system, so what are the possibilities and how? Because fundamentally we try to identify that what is the innovative aspect that actually contributing for this particular data poisoning, or what are the innovative approaches that is in the adversarial attack format. So this is one approach. When you say about we are going for an AI implementation in cybersecurity scenarios, one of the approaches that identification or the model identifications or the innovativeness in terms of business process or innovativeness in terms of the ways they are approaching this particular problem is one area that most of the research or the articles try to explore, that how actually each models is different from the other, so that it will have a contribution in terms of the improving the architectural frameworks. So obviously when it is coming to, that is an innovative dilemma, from where we should get insight into the problems, whether we should gain the insight from the governance systems like FBI or any government agencies that actually contribute or actually develop this kind of an architectural framework, best practices for the organization, or whether we should just focus about the different attacking groups, multiple attacking groups that are, or state-sponsored groups that actually contribute for their innovation. So fundamental idea is that we create a filtering mechanism that ultimately help us to capture the innovative models, innovative ways, this particular system, so that we will be able to integrate with the upcoming AI models, so that models will be competent enough to meet both the government organizations as well as the attacker groups. So, but fundamentally, both are actually get benefited by this particular AI models that is generated. Obviously, we can identify that why we should think about the sustainability issues when it is coming to an AI implementation process, because ultimately we can see that across the domain, whether it is the food security or whether it is for the infrastructural security, everywhere we can identify that a mismatch or the wrong implementation, or there is issues in the implementation, lack of proper implementation, AI deployment, ultimately leads to multiple sustainability issues, or the organizations face challenge with reference to implementation failure. So fundamentally, there are multiple case studies that actually discuss why or how this particular AI implementation is going to contribute, flow in AI implementation contribute for the security breach in a particular organization. So ultimately that will be also going to decide the sustainability of this particular model that will be going to derive. So fundamental idea is that we capture the ideas or capture the ways the AI the new models will be developing based upon the existing practices or the existing ways these particular attacker groups coming with their models. Then we try to identify what are the areas they try to focus on the sustainability issues. When it is coming to an implementation problem, obviously we can identify that AI implementation is not just or a deployment of the AI in an organization will have multiple modules. Not just one module is sufficient for a particular organization. So when it is coming to a multiple modules for an organization to adopt a particular AI or deploying AI in their routine operations, ultimately these multiple project or a multiple modules is also going to create a lot of complexities in terms of the AI deployment, and that is also one of the major contribution in terms of the sustainability, where actually this is going to be sustainable, because fundamentally you can identify that some of the major concern is about centralized AI governance is become a big problem. Deployment is a big problem because each project has a different timeline. Each project has a different objectives or the goals that need to be provided. Ultimately, that will be one of the major challenge. So if you look about there are multiple AI security challenge with reference to AI deployment across the literature, and some of them are about platforms that operation, how actually the AI deployment platforms they try to, or the project platforms they are operating itself is incompatible, or there is a different lack of trust in the platforms that actually try to identify. So this is the major six component or six areas where the AI security challenge is always emphasized across the literature. If you go through different literature in this particular scenario, you can identify that these are the six areas that actually try to highlight what are the security challenge when you are going for a deploying an AI in an organization level. So basically, all the security challenge that are highlighted, or if you go with a ASP or any kind of a statistical method for classifying or prioritizing these kind of a security issues, most of these particular AI deployment challenge in terms of securities arise because of the multiple project with the different modules that are incompatible over a period of time. So you can identify that the innovations that emerge from different multiple projects or a different AI modules is also going for a contribution for the challenge aspect, so that you can identify that a model, different type of a model that is emerging. So this is one of the major concern when it is coming to an AI deployment in an organization perspective. So how we will be going to integrate this particular, okay, now you have the ideas where actually we should gather the insight into the AI models. Then we try to identify that where actually the problems arise from an organization perspective. When you have an organization perspective, how that particular, okay, multiple projects are in place, how you will be able to integrate into the organizational goals perspective. So if you look about the TOGA framework, most of this particular framework or any kind of an enterprise architectural framework that try to capture the IT implementation or the IT especially AI, infrastructure and the business goals, most of this particular architecture is not explicitly discussing about the implementation challenge or how actually this is going to be integrated in an organization perspective. Even though we try to discuss, or most of the transformation in TOGAF, new versions of the TOGAF that is popularly adopted across the enterprise level is still lack in terms of the discussions about the AI integration into business and the organizational level. So that is one of the major concern with reference. Okay, now you have multiple projects and all the multiple project is need to fulfill the business goal of that particular organization. And when you are looking into the enterprise architecture, where I am going to get the insight, how actually I will be able to integrate, we have very less information or very less structured approach that is available, especially from an enterprise architectural framework. So obviously there are multiple skill. If you go through the architectural literature, you can see multiple challenge that is already existing in this particular domain. Fundamental problem with reference to AI integration with a reference to enterprise architecture is nothing but data governance. In terms of the how actually it also emerged from the something which we already mentioned about the data poisoning issues that is prevalent. So in multiple verticals, the highest priorities that is always coming in terms of the data itself when it is coming to an AI implementation and how actually it is going to influence the organizational security or the enterprise security. The basic, the highest priority is always coming from the data itself, how actually the data, whether it is in the governance perspective or whether it is in the poisoning perspective over a period of time. So that is something which actually contribute, but there are multiple, you can see that interoperability is also one of the major issues with reference to when you are looking into the architectural perspective as well, or when you are going for the innovative models also, you can identify the same issues persist across the scenario. So very interesting aspect is that you try to observe the problem, the ideas where actually it is coming, and how this is tried to solve in a business environment. Most of them, there is an overlap that is taking place when it is coming to a holistic picture of a implementation challenge. So we try to identify that the major skill, I mean, that is one of the aspects that we, the architectural scenario or the strategic level observation, and how when it is coming into an operational level also, we can identify that there is a, obviously there will be multiple technical skill or a technical problems that is associated. We already discussed in the last sections, like a lack of skilled security professionals in the domain. There is a more than 70% gap in terms of the security professionals in this particular domain, especially with the reference to AI implementation. AI security challenge, because there are multiple consultancy report that actually explaining about, if you are looking into this particular AI related security aspect, there is a gap of 70% skill gap that is existing. Obviously, there are other non-technical skill, because it is not just about the technical lack of technical people, but security is a decision, or it is a leadership problem. It is not a organizational, or it is not a technical problem as such. So when it is coming to a leadership problem, when security become a leadership problem, most of the organizations do not know how to respond, or a lack of understanding about how the AI models work. So that is why we always try to identify the something called explainability issues, or the bias in this particular algorithms, or multiple factors that is try to identify. So there are in terms of the deployment issues, the technical issues, more than 70% job opportunities or something which we are anticipating, and most of the leadership positions have no understanding or a lack of skill in terms of when there is a cyber attack is taking place, in terms of response strategies. Obviously, if you look about, if we are able to integrate these particular sustainability parameter, or if you want to identify this particular, where actually this particular enterprise architecture and the cybersecurity interface integration, there are multiple studies that actually try to identify the integration of this particular domain. So obviously there are multiple opportunities that actually contribute for this particular domain. So what is the possibilities that we can anticipate where actually you will be able to in terms of the implementation challenge? So we know that where actually we should go for ideas, or where we should go for the model building. The moment you think about the threat modeling or how you want to go for it, obviously we will be gaining insight from the not from the organization that are actually practicing, but obviously we try to identify the knowledge should be coming from the different groups or the different agencies that contribute in this particular breach that is taking place. Then we try to identify that, okay, our ideas or our algorithms should derive from that, but their models. Then we try to integrate into our organizational scenarios from an enterprise architectural framework. And the simple, every organization will have a different way of implementation, but that is not going to solve the entire ecosystem problem. So when you want to solve the ecosystem problem, I mean, because we mentioned about when it is coming to a sustainability, the AI implementation, flow in AI implementation is going to affect multiple domains, whether it is a food security or whether it's the hospital industries or the banking industry or finance and all industries. So multiple industries is going to face because of the AI deployment challenge. So obviously there should be an ecosystem or something, the entire ecosystem should be built not just by the vertical pillars that is tried to identify. So obviously the NIST framework is recently they have come up with a new 2.0, and you can identify that there is now they are introducing the governance that was not there at one point of time. I mean, so far governance was not there, only it start from identity. And if you look and closely go through this particular NIST framework with reference to governance architecture or the governance auditing that is taking, because we always mention about the security problems can be resolved or can be addressed if there is a proper security auditing is taking place in the organizations. But when you are going for a governance auditing, because there is a stream of something called corporate criminology literature that is explaining about the governance auditing. When governance auditing is carried out in terms of the IT or the how internal employees is going to carry out the cyber attacks. So there is a lack of discussions or lack of observation in governance practice, governance auditing with reference to security or AI related security that is taking place. So what actually we can think about is that we can extend, because now still it is open and there are a lot of input are coming, how you will be able to implement or what kind of an extensions are possible with for the NIST framework. Obviously, we can identify that there are some certain core AI deployment factors that should be part of the governance structure. That is automatically take care of most of the technical and the other component. So what else is required? Because as I mentioned, it is not a vertical or the domain specific. AI implementation should not be a domain specific. So the subcategories, obviously it should start from the collaborations mechanism, how actually industries from finance and industries from healthcare or the education sector come together, collaborate, what kind of a problem they actually face in governing this particular AI implementations and how actually it is lead them to a security problem. That need to be integrated with an best practices, not necessarily an NIST framework or any other practices or the customized frameworks that is required for the organization. So this will help the organizations to address AI-related cybersecurity issues, irrespective of the domain challenge. Obviously, it will be within a short week. If you look this particular NIST framework of after 10 years period of time, we can direct it is definite that we will be able to see that this kind of discussions or this kind of a frame issues will be also become part of their governance structure. Currently, the governance structure is not discussing about this particular specific problems with reference to AI. It is a cybersecurity discussion, cybersecurity governance problem, but not explicit towards the AI deployment challenge that is associated. So this is something which we try to identify, that how actually the flow of AI implementation, when you are planning an AI implementation at a global perspective, how it should be streamlined in an organization perspective. So that is a research work actually we carry out in my lab, with my colleagues in this particular area. So I'm open for any questions and discussions.
I find your research very interesting. And one thing, are you working on any model?
Yes, threat model, different threat models. We try to come up with the different threat models for KYC, the and multiple domains.
And also regarding interoperability, tell us something more about it. I found that very interesting also.
Interoperability in terms of, because that become more important when you want to identify that how the governance structure in a particular domain, the practices in the finance sector may not be relevant, or may not be relevant in a metaverse security problems, because they have a altogether different scenarios. But how actually you try to identify the mapping process between their process and what is lacking in the current structure in terms of the synthetic or semantic interoperability, different levels of interoperability that we are always familiar with. So where actually the semantic interoperability, or whether it sometimes it is not available in the finance sector, but it may be reflecting in the healthcare sector, especially healthcare sectors, the semantic or Web 3.0 interoperability issues are there. So even though it is not addressed in the finance sector, we can bring that when we are going for an holistic approach, we can bring that particular interoperability challenge.
And one of the important things I think is also very important is metaverse. In metaverse, all those things that you've talked about, I think if you look at it in metaverse, that can have a very big impact, especially from your perspective, how you're looking at things like, AI, standardization, interoperability, and all that. I think that would be really adding a lot of, because metaverse is the future now.
Highly complex and interactive platforms.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Anandu. I'm working for a company called Cubust as a security analyst. So my question is as part of our company works, we used to do application scanners, security scanners, so which basically works on identifying certain patterns or signatures of certain vulnerabilities, and the scanner results those things. But from a business logic perspective, the scanners may not be able to identify certain things. Say, for example, if it's a business logic vulnerability, there may not be a signature to identify. So in that case, a manual intervention is always needed. But nowadays, there are certain tools which are prepared using the AI. So these tools, what they claim is they learn based on our testing procedure, and they learn on the signatures, and they learn the business logic as well. And accordingly, they scan the application. So do you think these AI-based security scanners may replace the security analysts?
It will not, because if you look about the traditional auditing and automated auditing process, the traditional auditing is always competent to capture the innovation. So just like I just started with, where should we start? So the traditional ways always help to identify the new ways of attack or new, because that most of the time the automated auditing process that is known to us, something which is already familiar to us. But there is a lot, most of the auditing literature always advise that even though there is a automated or the 24/7 kind of an monitoring is taking place, it is always recommended that there is a frequent human intervention in terms of, otherwise you will not be able to capture the new trends or new ways of innovations that is coming in this particular domain. So it is not. It will not. Most probably, it will not replace.
At least in the near future.
That is what.
Sorry. We understand data set is, of course, a major challenge in any AI implementation, right? So especially, we can find solution for the problems that we know, but especially in this security case, we are trying to address problems which are going to come up in the future, right? So what's your take on, like, how do we create data set for training these algorithms?
Synthetic data, that is something which, if you look, most of the literature in terms of security issues, that the actual, the behavioral data that you will be going to get from different platforms or any other AI-enabled platforms, that is not sufficient for simulating many of the possibilities way of attacking an organization. So that is actually possible because there are multiple organizations that manufacture, or in terms of a manufacturing or generate synthetic data that help the train the AI models for a security purpose. And in terms of the cost, also the synthetic data is currently, it is something which is a more approach, feasible rather than the other data set that is required, because this become more important when there is a interoperability or something which multiple domains you need to consider, because multiple domains may not share the security related information for training their models in a different altogether different models. So in that particular aspect, the synthetic data is going to help you significantly. And just like I mentioned, the first highest priority of all the AI implementation challenges with reference to data itself. The recent literature that is actually addressing how actually synthetic data is going to solve this particular horizontal deployment of this particular AI solutions that will be able to, because what actually happened, if you look about most of the attacking models, something which is successful in a finance sector is going to use in a healthcare sector, the attack way of attacks. So this has become more helpful in terms of with reference to synthetic data. We hope most probably the synthetic data is going to help these problems, but generating that particular synthetic data itself is require a lot of human skill. Skill for that's suitable for this particular training purpose. So that is what when it is coming to, because each domain we can see there are different literature when you do the some literature review, you can see different sectors how it can be resolved over a period of time.
Okay. Even in the case of synthetic data, so the data is basically to be generated based on some foreseen scenarios. That foreseen, if we can foresee the scenario, probably we can find the solution also right now.
From different domain. So that is something which actually try to identify. There is a very interesting paper that actually try to generate synthetic data based upon the cyber attacks on a financial institutions, and what kind of a data set is required in order to prevent the cyber attack on a healthcare industry. They try to identify that when you are going to generate the synthetic data, what should be the criteria for generating that particular synthetic data with reference to this particular attack on a healthcare industry. So that kind of a research is already taking place in multiple laboratories. Try to identify.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for elaborating about the implementation challenges with respect to cybersecurity and aspects, the skill sets that might be very important for the same. Next, we have a presentation by Dr. Vinod Bhattatripad, Cyber Forensic Consultant, Kozhikode. To just introduce, sir. Dr. Vinod Bhattatripad has been a cyber forensic consultant and has served as a technical expert to police, judiciary, Directorate of Revenue Intelligence, Income Tax Department, banks and multinational companies in India and abroad on cyber evidence since 2007. Prior to 2007, he has worked as a software engineer in 148 software development projects spanning 18 years. He has also been a part of the technical committee member of several digital crime and forensic conferences in Asia, Europe, and USA. He is also reviewer of several prestigious journals and conference proceedings. Sir has also published several research papers internationally on software piracy and copyright infringement forensics and in the developer of POSAR, a protocol for the forensics of software copyright infringement. So it's a privilege to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you very much for properly introducing. I've been asked to talk on cyber forensics. It's already 6 minutes late out of 30 minutes, so I'll be using the remaining time for that. We've been discussing about cybersecurity so far, but what we're going to discuss is something entirely different from cybersecurity. Cybersecurity ends when crime has happened. When crime has happened, cyber forensic begins. So where cybersecurity ends, cyber forensic begins. The technical know-how for cybersecurity experts is almost same as technical know-how of cyber forensic people, except that cyber forensics, I should say cyber forensic engineering is implemented, or the work is done, or the cyber forensic tasks are done within the framework of law, while cyber security tasks are done not generally within the framework of law, criminal law, I should say. So we work as cyber forensic people, we work in the context of criminal law. So our computer science thinking is completely based on the criminal law, or the criminal, I should say, the various criminal laws, I should say, primarily the penal code of that particular company. I mean, I work in 21 countries. The penal code of that particular country, we are supposed to work only on that, plus the other thing. So, I mean, this is point number one. Point number two is that we talked a lot of cybersecurity issues. Today itself, we discussed a lot of cybersecurity issues. The more you talk about cybersecurity issues, or those people who talk more about cybersecurity issues are more vulnerable for attacks. I can prove it now. Take your phone, whether it is Android or iPhone. Take it, simple. Open settings. If it is, whatever it is, search for permission manager. If it is Android, search for permission manager. If in iPhone also same that app manager or something like that is there. It should be there. Permission manager, right? Do you see a list of things like just? Do you see camera in that? Just select. No, don't select. Under that camera, something is written. What is written under the camera? 16 of 38 apps allowed, which means that she has given permission to record everything, even her bedroom activities. Uh, yeah, she has given permission to 16 apps. So people who are at the control center of those 16 apps can very well record when she changes her dress. How many apps you have given permission? Hmm? That's okay. 10 of 38 apps. Why? No. What do you mean by while in use? Do you see under the screen? Do you see 3 lines left bottom 3 lines? Just click that. Left bottom three lines. Just click that. You can see a list of apps that are in use right now currently. How many apps are there currently in use? You can, right? Haven't you seen that? You got the list. How many apps are there? So many apps are there. Last line in the home screen. Last line. There is at the middle there is a 0, and on the left there are 3 lines. Just click the 3 lines. Those apps are in use right now. Are you using it? Are you using those apps? No, but they are there, open. They are in use. That means those camera can take your bedroom activities. See, people are vulnerable. Even people who keep talking big things about cybersecurity are vulnerable to cyber attacks. Now, once an attack has happened, what will you do? In what all different ways a computer science person can help the police, can help the intelligence, can help the court, can help the victims to get over thing. So are you convinced about your vulnerability, degree of vulnerability? Yes, you are. Everybody is. Right. So cyber crimes, when I say you're vulnerable, you can be attacked in many different ways, not just in terms of cyber. It can be physical attacks also, right? If 16 apps or 14 apps, how many are there? 16 apps can, or people sitting at the control center of 16 apps can take her bedroom activities. Can open the camera, her mobile camera, and then take the pictures of activities around. That's a cyber crime. Now there are physical crime, for example, rape, burglary, theft, so many, all sort of traditional crimes where criminals leave evidence in the cyberspace. For example, any email or any, the best example is the bomb blast, Kalamassery bomb blast that has happened recently. 3-4 days ago, he has left a lot of evidence in the cyberspace. And he has collected all those things. He has studied the technology of making IED, right? The explosive from the internet. He has left a lot of evidence in the cyberspace. Suspiciously left a lot of evidence in the cyberspace, I should say. Suspiciously left. He shouldn't have left. And there are quite a lot of possibilities for him to not to leave those cyber evidence, but he has left all those suspiciously. That's okay. So, the cyber evidence of physical crimes. Then another thing is cyber crime, just as this thing. Why cyber forensics? Availability of cyber facilities to automatically store usage details as data in multiple places, inaccessible to the culprit. Computer technology basically facilitates log files.
That's a great thing computer technology is doing. It does log files of all the activities that's happening in the main cyberspace. For example, all the emails, all the details of the email, IP addresses, call lists, SMS. Now they're all stored in your. Suppose I have done a crime against you, then details are stored in my computer or my mobile, details are stored in your computer and your mobile, and suppose I destroy my computer, it's there in your mobile. Even if you destroy your mobile, it's there somewhere. Now the details that are there in my computer are accessible to me, details that are there in your computer are accessible to you. You can fabricate evidence against me, I can do many things about, but the evidence that should go to the judiciary should be perfect, neutral. It should be inaccessible to the culprit, right? That's what inaccessible to the culprit. That's very important. Not any piece of evidence is acceptable to the judiciary. It should be inaccessible to the culprit. Culprit should not be what do you say? Culprit should not be should not play with the evidence. Victims should not fabricate. Right. Then number two, availability of cyber protocols to generate primary information to prove or disprove the genuineness of the crime. That's very important. You just go to the police, lodge a complaint with the police, saying that this guy has attacked me, something like that. The police have to primarily prove the genuineness of the crime, genuineness of the complaint, right? And then once they found that okay, this is genuine, then so there's how do they prove that it's how do they convince themselves that it's genuine? There should be several protocols, and there are several protocols available, forensic protocols available. All these forensic protocols are computer science protocols. And the third thing is availability of legal provisions to register a proper case. There are quite a lot of legal provisions available. For example, the Penal Code of the country, the Information Technology Act of the country, then in the case of India, the 2021 guidelines. That's one of the strongest in the world, I should say. One of the strongest in the world. Only after India implemented it, did the US implemented that, because US took a copy of that, made some changes and implemented it. And only after that, Canada implemented it. And only after that, many Western countries, I don't know about Australia. I haven't checked what has happened. Like a simple thing, does YouTube have a grievance officer in Australia? No. An Australian sitting in Australia, if he or she has become a victim of YouTube crime, then she or he has to register the complaint with the help center in US. Whereas in India, if anybody has gone against you through YouTube, you can get it removed, or you can approach YouTube at Delhi. There is a provision in Delhi to do that. There is a grievance officer in Delhi. YouTube has got grievance officer. Instagram has got grievance officer. X has got that. Twitter, X means Twitter has got that. WhatsApp has got that. All the big social media platforms have grievance officers in India to get things removed if there is any cyber attack against you. So there are quite a lot of legal provisions, particularly the 2021 guidelines for availability of forensic protocols to generate cyber evidence which can unequivocally establish the merit of the case. That's very important. There are quite a lot of cyber forensic protocols available. Like, I'm talking about global. Right? It's applicable to any country in the world, including India. I might take some examples from India, but theoretically it's applicable to all. availability of cyber jurisprudence to use the cyber evidence to punish crimes. What is cyber jurisprudence? Suppose I do some crime against you, and you go to police, you go to court, case is in the court, and at some point of time, or till maybe during the first 1 year, 2 years, you are very adamant that you will punish, you will see that I am punished. But at some point of time, I offer you 1 crore. You say, oh, I don't want Vinod Bhattacharya to go to jail. Okay, you will say, okay, let me backtrace. Let me, okay, let me accept this 1 crore, and then what does that mean? Who's a loser? Are you? No. Am I? No. Who's a loser? The jurisprudence. Because jurisprudence comes when there is judicial decision. Here, decision has been taken by us, and when the court comes up, when the case comes up in the court, or before that they send you summons to appear. You will not appear. 5 or 6 or 7 times you will not appear. Court will say, seems victim has lost interest in this case, so case is closed. No jurisprudence, no judicial decision, right? But in several cases, there are judicial decisions, and people are going to the jail. People have been punished, so they all contribute to the jurisprudence of the country. Not just the jurisprudence of the country; it's just contribute to the jurisprudence of the world judiciary, I should say. Even a judicial decision in India can contribute to the international others can cite this as an example to do that. So that's also there. That's also there. So many people are punished. Sorry. Now, there are several sources of data from where you can collect cyber evidence. Call data, details, record data available in the available with the telecom operator. Say if you're using Geo has got all the call data records, all the what do you say, SMS details. And then IP dump of involved parties. What is the difference between IP dump and call details record? CDR, call details record, contain only the calls, regular calls, and regular SMS. Right. While all other activities, like for example, any activity that you're doing using Wi-Fi or data connection are collected and they're called IP dump. Then tar dump is everything. Happened under a particular tower where there are 10,000 Geo customers within that tower. Then this tower dump has got, you give a particular tower number, it gives a tower dump between 2 time, for example, 4 p.m. and 6 p.m. today. All the activities that has happened under that. ILD tower dump is in only the international activities, signals that have gone out of India or signals that have arrived from outside sources, all these things. Even a call from me to you is an international call. WhatsApp. A WhatsApp call from, even you're sitting there, I'm here, I'm just calling you. It's an international call. So it comes through ILD. So ILD is required even if the police wants to trace this particular call. Right. Then digital images. All these are sources of evidence from where you can collect details from various things. Digital audio clips, digital video clips, IP addresses, transaction logs obtained from mobile or computing devices, network event logs obtained from mobile or computing devices, operating system event logs obtained from mobile or computing devices, database event logs obtained from mobile or computing devices, software source codes. There are several sources of evidence, and there are multiple protocols exist to extract evidence from each of these sources. For example, in the case of something has happened. For example, if I want to extract evidence from Android, for example, there are multiple protocols exist for extracting evidence from Android, and these cyber evidence can answer many crucial questions connected to a crime. What are the type of questions? For example, it takes CDR or tar dump or IP dump or ILD tar dump. Uh, uh, Say for example, suppose I made a crime against you. You approach the police. Police don't know what has happened, right? So whether this person, whether this person is fabricating evidence against Vinod Bhattaripad and then lodging a complaint, so the genuineness has to be proved or the crime has to be proved, right? So police can think like, has a suspect mobile remained suspiciously silent or inactive just before the crime has happened? This is particularly important when there is a political murder. Nobody knows who has done what. And in many cases, political murders are done using what we call in Malayalam as quotation gangs, right? It's all ganged. Right, and then they mostly keep their mobile phones off or in silent mode or various things. So we should know the pattern, right? For example, you've been using mobile for quite a long time, for the last 1 year, and suddenly one day pattern has changed. Normally there is a mathematical pattern for your use, and nobody else in the world has got that particular pattern.
Every phone tower picks up your location.
Please.
Every phone tower, signal tower picks up your location and maps it out for the phone company. And they can pinpoint how far you were, what distance you were, whether you were at home, whether you were at office. And you can get that record from the telephone company.
Fair enough if you have taken your mobile there for conducting the crime. If you have not taken the mobile there, anticipating all these things, if you have not taken, you are leaving your phone at home and then going there and conducting the crime. We should, right? Or supposing that I'm your neighbor there. You're in Sydney, right? You're in Sydney. Okay, suppose I'm your neighbor. You just put your mobile in my bag. That particular day, it was actually a plot, and I was going to Perth, for attending, and I would be returning only tomorrow afternoon. I'll bring back mobile. Day after tomorrow morning, I give the mobile back to you, but it was actually a plot. You were conducting a particular crime and your mobile was traveling to Perth. Right. Now, every person leaves data of calls and SMS. Don't think that it's just data. It is a mathematical model. It is a mathematical model. So your call pattern mathematical model is different from her. It'll be different from her. Everybody has got an. Interestingly, husband and wife will have different mathematical models. Don't laugh at it. Surely, brothers will have different mathematical models. Surely, right? Now, analyzing this mathematical model, on one particular day, the model changes, and next day or after 2 days, model is restored. Why? Just for 2 days, a different mathematical model, right? This data will answer those questions. If you apply your brain, computer science brain, in that particular way, this data will answer those questions, right? Has the suspect mobile remained suspiciously idle just before the crime has happened or during the crime? Are there any two-way, three-way, or multi-way telecom conspiracy just before the crime has happened? A lot of questions it will answer. And then there are mathematical models based on CDRs or IP dumps or tower dumps and ILD tower dumps, for example, to create the suspect list, to identify the alternate SIM numbers. For example, many people conduct crimes using their alternate SIM numbers. People never reveal their alternate SIM number. For example, they put their their SIM cards off, but their WhatsApp would be working. WhatsApp needs, if you want to work in WhatsApp, it has to be either connected through the Wi-Fi or through a data connection. Data connection requires SIM card. They bring another SIM card. They buy another SIM card. They install that. They never leave the number to them.